Welcome to another Telltale Books video review. I'm Greg, and I'm continuing my Brian W. Aldiss series with this video. We're up to his 7th published work, which is titled The Great Time Hiccup. The Great Time Hiccup was published in April of 1955 in Nebula Science Fiction magazine, issue number 12 overall. And I read the story in this book, which is the most recent place where you can find a lot of Aldiss's early fiction, including The Great Time Hiccup, but it is out of print already, and it is trade paperback. As far as I can tell, no hardcover edition has ever been published of this book, but it's the complete short stories, the 1950s. Very good book, because it's the complete short stories from the 1950s. Everything's in here, including The Great Time Hiccup. So I didn't have to track down a copy of Nebula number 12, and was able to just read the story and report on it. So what's it about? You have a situation, I wasn't very clear on what the cause was, but something causes the whole world to experience these jolts in time that send everybody backwards in time. Sometimes it only jolts you backwards 11 hours, sometimes it jolts you backwards days, but they just keep coming every so often. They seem to be able to predict when another jolt is going to happen, but it keeps happening. And it's referred to as a time storm, which that's an idea that was later used a lot in science fiction. Gordon R. Dickson wrote a whole novel titled Time Storm, and the motion picture version of Bradbury's short story about traveling back in time to the dinosaurs, that introduces the idea of these waves of time that just keep making things worse and worse and worse, kind of like a time storm that, and they can see it coming at them. So it's something that has been used in science fiction. To the best of my knowledge, this is the first. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not aware of an earlier story with the idea of a time storm. Kind of a Ballardian type of device. Ballard would have utilized the story in a little different way. It would have been a little more surreal, I think, than what, all this is a little more traditional science fiction with his. And that's the story's weakness. I feel there's so much more he could have done with it. It's interesting. As a short story, it works. And I would recommend it, especially if you like Brian Aldiss, if you like British science fiction in the 1950s. This is a good story. It's not great. It could have been great if Aldiss would have taken this a lot farther. And I feel he does take ideas of time much, much farther in other books, but not quite the same idea. This idea, he didn't really do much with it. Yet it is still a good story. It could have been better. I can see the potential for a much stronger story here. But it is what it is. If you like all this, or you like 1950s British science fiction in general, I think there's a good shot you'll like The Great Time Hiccup. And if you have already read The Great Time Hiccup, tell me what you think. Do you have any knowledge of events surrounding the writing of this story? What Aldiss might have been thinking? If you have read the story and just have thoughts on the story, whether or not it's good, what else could have been done with it, whatever. put them in the comments section of the video for everybody to enjoy. Otherwise, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and come back and watch all the Aldiss reviews I'm doing. I'm going through them in order of publication from the very beginning. And so far, I've gotten them all. So far, I'm not missing any. And with this, I don't think I'll miss any of his 1950s short stories. So come on back. The next one is a story titled Pogsmith. Never read that one before. It'll be interesting. Come on back and watch that and all the other videos I do on Telltale Books.